What do you think about places like this and the Dawn Centre where we were before?
Well, without this place, I'd definitely be out on the streets at this moment in time, because I've led a transient lifestyle, moving from place to place to place. I've ended up not actually fitting into one borough council's criteria for living in that area, so they deem it I'm not suitable for social housing or anything like that in that area. So if it wasn't for Wordsworth Road, I would have been stuck on the streets. They were kind enough to interview me and then see that if I was given a chance I could start to get my life back on track, but the councils don't see that sort of thing. I worked pretty much all my life, so my tax went into something called into the Inland Revenue. Now when it went to the Inland Revenue, it wasn't like my money wasn't just distributed to the place where I was staying. It went to a national database and it was distributed amongst every council, so to have one council turn around and say to me, you're not entitled to stay here because you've got no ties or anything like that. Well, I paid to help keep that council afloat and stuff like that. My taxes went to support them, whether it be like how small a percentage it was. If you put in a claim for ESA, let's just say for example it takes 3 weeks to process that, and if you decline for the ESA claim, then you need to start a new claim with job seekers allowance, so potentially then that's 3 weeks where you're waiting for your benefit to get declined, which you're not getting money, do you understand? And then you have to go on to make a new claim from JSA. So essentially what you're doing is the government's stopping you from getting money from the date where you initially start your claim. Whereas if the ESA and the JSA were both in the same department, if you're applying for ESA and then you get declined, they just automatically send you on to JSA then, so that you get your money from the start date. Does that make?
That makes perfect sense. And what happens in that 3 weeks then?
Well, you don't get any money while you're waiting for the claim to be processed. They do say that it takes up to 14 working days, which is more or less 3 weeks. But then, so you have to go without money through that period, but you are entitled to a short-term benefit advance, but then that is only a minimum amount of money as well. It could be £20 or £30. It's what they deem a suitable amount to live on, but we all know that £20 or £30 doesn't go very far in this day and age. So yeah, that's something that needs to be looked at, I think. The advertising in job centres with jobs that don't actually exist, just purely to get people on their books. Now you go into the job centre and put this point to them and it's like they'll deny it to the hilt, but I guarantee it, if anybody takes it off their own back and goes into the job centre and looks at jobs that are vacancies that are created by agencies, 9 times out of 10 there won't actually be a job there, but you're still made to go and apply for it, which is like, it almost makes you feel like, well, my time's worthless. They obviously feel I've got that little to do with my time that I can just go around applying for these jobs that don't exist.
Because you're not valued, your time.
Yeah, of course. Like the government, David Cameron and George Osborne and all the rest of them. Ian Duncan Smith. I mean, he's the Work and Pensions Minister, isn't he? He doesn't really care about me. He's got no sort of interest in my life or anything like that. Sometimes people that are homeless and stuff like that, sometimes it is a choice. Don't get me wrong. I've come across people where they make it a choice to be on the streets and stuff like that. They choose make certain choices which leave them where they want to be, like on the streets begging or whatever, because I think sometimes they've just got to the point where they don't necessarily feel comfortable in accommodation anymore. They've been homeless for so long that's just the norm. You just get on with life. And as for migrants, I've got nothing against the migrants coming here or anything like that. I mean, if they're coming here in living on the streets because it's better than their country, then that's up to them. But the only reason why they've came to this country is because employers have exploited the fact that there's a load of unskilled labour in Europe which they can pay cheaper wages to and ship them in and pay the British people less money. Like I say, there are a small minority of people that are homeless and on benefits and stuff like that are happy to be there, but the majority of people want a better life for themselves. I mean, I certainly do, and most of the people around me do. But it's like having those opportunities there for you.